Hey guys, it is Heather with Jumping Spiders USA. You can find us at jumpingspidersusa.com. You can find us on Facebook and join the group and join the discussion at facebook.com/groups/jumpingspidersusa. You can also follow us on TikTok by just typing in Jumping Spiders USA and that'll come up. And before we get started, be sure to give this video a like, comment, let us know how you're doing. Let us know how the spiders are doing. Share, subscribe, click the little bell so you get notifications for all future content. I mean, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I think it's pretty good content. So this evening, what are we going to talk about? I watched a video from someone in my group a bit ago, and I will link down to her channel in the description and to the video in specific. I will link to that down in the description. And she was talking about ordering a spider from a very popular, well-known, easily Googleable breeder. And I hate to say it, but I don't know what the actual statistics are if I had to give it some numbers. But a higher percentage than I would like, than most of us would like, breeders out there are unethical and just utterly craptastic. So, what do you need to be looking out for when you are about to order your first jumping spider? So some of the things right off the bat, just in terms of business and online presence, that can be applied to all types of businesses. Do they look professional? Does the website, does it look like they're intelligent? Does it look like they've edited it? Does it look like they've put some time and thought and effort into what they're doing? Because if it doesn't, then that makes me wonder if they're putting in the time, the thought, the effort into anything else for the business related. So first off the bat, what does their online presence look like? Or what vibe do you get if you're talking to them in a group or in Messenger or whatever else kind of thing? What kind of, does it pass the vibe check? Okay, you also don't want somebody who is pushy, who is pushing you to do things before you're ready, or seems overly aggressive or anything like that. You don't want that. You want someone who is patient with you and who answers your questions. Even if you have several questions, and you don't want someone making you feel bad for asking these questions, because these are things that you need to know, especially if this is your first spider. And this is why I'm super gonna tell you, please join the Facebook group, look at my care guide, jumpingspidersusa.com. It's the most complete one out there that I know of. I've put a lot of time and effort into this. It's truly a labor of love, the last year and a half. So check that out. Also, so you want them to be patient, you want them to be kind, you want them to be somebody that you feel comfortable doing business with. When it comes to shipping, you want someone who is going to ship via FedEx, nothing else. Not USPS, not UPS, nothing else, because it is illegal to ship any other way but FedEx. People might tell you reasons well, I live so far from FedEx and this and that and the other. Well, that's sucky. But I mean, against the rules is kind of against the rules. So if you are gonna, maybe don't work with people that cut corners, because if they're cutting corners in those ways, how else are they cutting corners? A lot of people, and sometimes breeders will tell you that it's cheaper if you go USPS. Well, yeah, it probably is, but there's a reason for that too, and you're just not supposed to do it. You can send some live animals through USPS, like baby chicks and feeder insects and things like that. but you cannot send spiders. USPS, like no spiders. I think they use the word poisonous, and spiders are not poisonous. Almost all spiders are venomous. That's the correct term. But it doesn't matter what word we're using. It doesn't matter if we're talking about venomous. It doesn't matter if we're talking about poisonous. It doesn't matter. USPS are not entomologists. They are mail carriers. That is that whole thing. That's their wheelhouse. So it doesn't matter what words they use. They're very specific, and they say all spiders. Don't mail them. So now that we've got that cleared up, and not just FedEx. You don't just want someone that works with FedEx. You want someone that ships with a third party through FedEx, such as Ship Your Reptiles or something like that, because they have even more specific criteria on shipping your spiders, and it makes it even safer, and it's just like another level of like a go-between. If you've got an issue with FedEx, like Ship Your Reptiles or any of those kinds of like third party that work with FedEx, that they have got your back, and they will be calling FedEx and they will figure out what is going on. You also do not want anybody who ships anything other than overnight or 2-day. So that is how that's the best way to do it. 2-day or overnight. You also want to be looking for someone depending on time of year. Like, you want to be looking for someone. I know it sucks for you as a buyer and somebody who's like, oh, so excited to get your first spider. Like, I know that like you're chomping at the bit, you're ready to get your spider friend. But you want somebody who puts boundaries in place. You want somebody who says, you know what? The weather in your neck of the woods in July or August is just too dang hot. Like, we are going to put this on hold for a little while. Maybe that's frustrating for you because you're so excited. But that's partly how you know that you've got, somebody who's looking out for the best interests of your spiders, and that's what you should be doing too. So that if somebody's not doing that, if they're like, yeah, it's 110 degrees where you are, let's ship these babies out. I would hope not. But so that you need somebody who is cognizant of the weather, who's taking that into consideration, whether it's hot or whether it's cold, depending what time of year it is, and who is taking that into consideration. Are they mailing? Are they shipping with cold packs or heat packs? Ask those questions. If it's hot outside, be like, if you ask, do you have concerns about the heat? What are you doing to mitigate those concerns? You also want someone who ships with ventilation holes. I know that seems so basic, but in the video I just watched, like, there were no ventilation holes, and that could have been absolutely disastrous. So you want somebody who ships with ventilation holes, and sometimes some people will send freebies with your spiders that you order, and that can seem nice, except if you're brand new and you're expecting one spider and they send you 2 or even more, you may not be ready. Like, you may only have like 1 enclosure ready. So ask, that's a question that you can ask. Hey, I'm ordering X number of spiders. That's all you're sending, right? I'm only set up for X number of spiders. What else should you be looking for? So if somebody sends things poorly or not well or isn't following the rules, like, that's not on you. Like, that's not your fault. But let's put some of the onus, let's put some of the responsibility on the buyer as well. That, before you get any pet, you want to be read up and well researched before you get this pet. Definitely check out the care guide. I'm going to plug this care guide again, jumpingspidersusa.com. Go check it out. It's very complete. You will come out of that like with information that took me like years to know all of the things that are in there. It'll take you as long as it takes you to read it. And, that's information that like it took me a couple years to figure out all those things. So you'll already be ahead of the curve and you'll know things to ask. Also, you want to make sure ask if the spider is captive bred or if it is wild caught. Now, sometimes people are just going to tell a bald-faced lie right to your face, and you can't help that, but you asked. Because sometimes unethical breeders will send people gravid, which means pregnant, full of eggs. Gravid spiders, with fertile eggs, not just gravid, like she's going to lay some infertile eggs, but like fertile eggs. And then you've got this new spider and you're like a new spider keeper, and then you've got like 100 babies when you expected one, and it's like, oh, what do I do? So you want to ask about that. You want to ask like where this spider came from. You want to ask like, how many times this spider has molted. You want to know what level of development it has reached. Is it a sling? Is it juvenile? Is it subadult? Is it mature? And also sometimes you want to know as well if it's wild caught or captive bred, because sometimes if it's wild caught, people will send you an old spider, like a geriatric spider. They don't live that long in like the best of circumstances. Like they, if you have a jumping spider who's like lived to 18 months, like you are doing great. So you might have one and if it's already mature, and you might not have it for very long, and then you spent like maybe say like $25 on a spider and then $35 on shipping and then like everything else for the enclosure and food and whatever else, and that's like $100+ for like one spider right there. And it's like, oh, I had it for a month and it died of old age, and it's like, oh, sad face. So ask where they're getting their spiders and ask what stage of development it is. Generally, you don't want somebody sending you a spider usually before I4, I5. Like, if it's a larger jumping spider, something like a regal or an audax, something like that, something that gets bigger, then you want it to be about housefly size before they send it to you, and that's about I4, I5, something like that. Because and part of the reason for that is just like hardiness, like making that journey, but also it is for what was I gonna say? It's for the hardiness. Oh, but it's also that if a spider is going to die, like it is not at all, I mean, it's a sad fact. Like nature knows what it's doing when creatures that produce like tons of babies. Like nature knows what it's doing. There's a reason for that. There's a rhyme and a reason. There's a method to the madness, and that is because not all of the babies are going to make it. And in a clutch, it is not at all abnormal for say like 30% of a clutch to die before maturity, and that's even in the best conditions. So you want them to be around I4, I5. You want them to be like at least housefly size if they're like a bigger species of jumping spider. You want them to be at least that big, partly for hardiness. You want them to make the journey. You want them to live through that journey. But you also want them to make it once they get to you. Now, a spider can die at any stage of development. And the very sad fact is that most of the time, if a spider is going to die before old age, it's very likely going to do it around a molt. Like, molting can just be very hard on them. It's just a sad fact. But you want to give your spider every chance that you can, and if it's going to die, usually it's going to do it before I5. Like, not to say that a spider older than that won't die once you get it, but it's going to be less likely to die before I4, I5, something like that. What else do you need to know? I think those are all of the basics. Yeah, like, do they pass the vibe check? Do they seem helpful to you? Do they seem helpful answering your questions? Do they seem like they know what they're talking about? And you may not know because you're new, but let's put some of the responsibility on you, that you need to get well read. You need to research so that you know these things and not just leave it up to somebody else. Because if we could leave, everything else up to everybody else to do the things that they're supposed to do, well, the world would be a much better place. But that doesn't always happen. So make sure you know what you have to do. Like, know what you have to know. And then, be asking all these questions. And this is not rude of you to ask these questions, like to ask these things. This is not rude. There's nothing wrong with this. It should show them that you are, like, invested, that you are well researched, that you know what you're talking about, that you want them to know what they're talking about. They should be impressed that you are asking these questions and you know what to ask, you know what to talk about. They should be impressed, and they should think, wow, my spider is going to go to a great home where someone gives two craps about them. They should be applauding you for asking all these questions. So I think that's what I have to say about that tonight. If you can think of anything else, definitely drop it down in the comments and let us know. Like, where have you gotten your spiders that you were super pleased with? Where have you gotten your spiders that you were super like, ooh, 2 thumbs down, 0 out of 10 stars, do not recommend? So tell us about it. And then find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/jumpingspidersusa. And again, that care guide is jumpingspidersusa.com. You guys have a good night. I'm rooting for you. Good luck.